Now, we will continue the next episode. You sit by your own small fire, feeding it carefully with bits of dried camel dung and the sparse fuel you have gathered. The flames are small but sufficient, providing light to see by and a focus point for your attention. Fire in the desert is both practical necessity and psychological comfort, a reminder of civilization, of human control over the environment, however temporary and fragile that control might be. Zaytuna lies nearby, her legs folded beneath her, chewing her cud with methodical patience. Her eyes reflect the firelight, glowing amber in the darkness. She seems content, settled for the night, her body relaxed after the day's exertion. You feel a surge of affection for this animal who carries your hopes and your fortune across these empty lands without complaint, without question, simply doing what camels have done for thousands of years. The young man who spoke to you earlier approaches your fire. He carries a small pot and some provisions. "May I join you, brother?" he asks politely. "Of course," you reply, gesturing to a spot near the fire. "Please, sit." He settles himself and begins to prepare tea, mixing water from his skin with dried leaves and a bit of sugar. He sets the pot at the edge of the fire, balancing it carefully on stones. The water begins to heat, and soon the smell of tea mingles with the smoke, a civilized fragrance in the wild night. "My name is Liu Chen," he says. "I serve the porcelain merchant, Master Huang. We are traveling from Chang'an to Ctesiphon in Persia. What is your destination?" "I am called Karim," you reply, using the traveling name you adopted for this journey, not your real name which you keep private. "I hope to reach Constantinople or perhaps Damascus, depending on conditions and opportunities." Liu Chen nods, pouring tea into 2 small cups as the water comes to a simmer. He offers one to you. You accept it gratefully, wrapping your hands around the cup, feeling its warmth, inhaling the fragrant steam. "This is my first long journey," Liu Chen says. "My master has made the trip twice before. He says the road is different each time. Different dangers, different opportunities, different companions." "The old storyteller told me something similar," you reply. "He said the road never changes, but is never the same." Liu Chen smiles at this paradox. "Wise words. I think I understand what they mean. The physical road is constant, but the experience of traveling it is unique each time. We bring ourselves to the journey, and ourselves are always changing." You sip the tea, surprised by the depth of this young man's thoughts. "You are a philosopher, as well as a merchant's servant." He laughs, but there is a hint of sadness in it. "I am neither, really. I wanted to be a scholar, to study the classics, to write poetry. But my family had no money for such pursuits. When Master Huang offered me a position, promising to teach me the trading business, my father insisted I accept. Perhaps one day I will have earned enough to return to my studies. Or perhaps I will discover that trade is its own kind of education." You understand his position. Your own path might have been different if circumstances had allowed. There is much to learn on the road, you say. The storyteller trades in knowledge and seems content with his life. True, Liu Chen agrees. Though he must have been young once and made different choices that led him to this point. We all follow the paths available to us, hoping they lead somewhere worthwhile. The conversation falls into a comfortable silence. You both drink your tea and watch the fire. Other figures move in the darkness between fires, men visiting neighbors, sharing news or food, checking on animals, attending to the small tasks that make camp life function. The Persian carpet merchant walks by, his arms full of brushwood he has somehow found in this spare landscape. He nods a greeting as he passes. Behind him comes one of the camel drivers, leading an animal to a different sleeping spot. The camp is still organizing itself, finding its rhythm for the night. Rahman appears at the edge of your firelight. His face is tired but alert. He has been moving constantly since the caravan stopped, checking on all the travelers, ensuring water is distributed fairly, resolving small disputes, planning tomorrow's route. "The night watch will begin after full dark," he announces. "I need volunteers for the first shift. 2 men armed to watch the perimeter and tend the signal fire. Liu Chen stands immediately. I will take a watch, Master Raman. You hesitate, then stand as well. I will join him for the first shift. Raman studies you both, then nods. Good. The first watch is from now until the moon reaches that point in the sky. He indicates a position, perhaps 3 hours ahead. Watch for movement in the darkness. Listen for sounds that do not belong. If you see anything concerning, wake the camp immediately. Do not try to investigate alone. Do you have weapons? Liu Chen produces a short sword from his belongings. You show your knife, which seems inadequate for defense, but Raman merely nods. The point is not to fight, he says. It is to give warning. 2 alert men can see what 1 sleeping camp cannot. If there is real danger, we will deal with it together. He moves on to organize the other watches, dividing the night into shifts so that some men can sleep while others guard. This is standard practice on the Silk Road. Bandits prefer to attack sleeping caravans, slipping in under cover of darkness to steal goods or animals. A watched camp is a safe camp, usually. Most bandits will not attack if they know they have been seen. The risk is too great. You and Liu Chen gather your belongings and take up positions at the edge of the camp, where the firelight fades into darkness. Raman has built a larger fire here, the signal fire, which burns brighter than the cooking fires. It serves as a beacon, showing that the camp is alert, that guards are posted. You feed this fire carefully, keeping it bright but not wasteful of fuel. The sounds of the camp gradually quiet as men finish their meals and settle for sleep. Conversations fade to murmurs, then silence. The fires burn lower, tended only enough to keep them alive until morning. The camels are quiet, most lying down now, their forms dark lumps scattered around the camp perimeter. The desert night surrounds you. It is not silent, as you might have expected. There are sounds, small and subtle, the whisper of wind moving over sand, the distant call of some night bird or animal, the crackle of the fire, the sound of your own breathing and Liu Chen's beside you. And underneath everything, a kind of profound quiet that is less the absence of sound than the presence of vastness, the acoustic signature of open space extending in all directions. It is beautiful, Liu Chen whispers, looking up at the stars. I have never seen so many. You follow his gaze. The stars are indeed magnificent. So numerous they seem to touch each other, forming patterns and clusters and rivers of light. You can see why ancient peoples saw gods and heroes and animals in these patterns, why they told stories to explain the lights, why they navigated by them, worshipped them, feared them. In the cities, you cannot see the sky like this, you say. Too many lights, too many buildings. Out here, you see the universe as it truly is. It makes me feel very small, Liu Chen says, and yet also part of something larger, as if we are connected to those lights somehow, made of the same substance, subject to the same laws. You consider this. The old storyteller would appreciate such thoughts. Perhaps you should share them with him. He might weave them into a tale. Liu Chen smiles. Perhaps, though my poetry is not very good. My masters always said I was too abstract, not enough attention to the traditional forms. Out here, there are no masters to judge you, you point out. Only the stars and the sand, and they do not care about traditional forms. This pleases him, and you fall back into silence, watching and listening. Time passes in the way it does when you are simply being present, not rushing toward anything, not anxious about what comes next. The moon rises, a crescent shape climbing slowly above the eastern horizon, adding its silver light to the gold of the stars. A shape moves in the darkness beyond the camp. You tense, hand going to your knife, but Liu Chen touches your arm. Just a fox, he whispers. See the movement. Too small for a man, too purposeful for the wind. You watch and see he is right. The shape is a small animal, probably drawn by the smell of food or water. It circles the camp at a cautious distance, then disappears into the night. Your heart rate slows back to normal. You have good eyes, you say. My master taught me to watch carefully, Liu Chen replies. In his business, a tiny crack in porcelain can mean the difference between profit and loss. I learned to see small details to notice what others might miss. A useful skill on the road as well, you observe. The night deepens. The moon climbs higher. You feed the fire periodically, keeping it bright. From the camp behind you, you hear occasional sounds, someone coughing, the shift of a sleeping man, the low rumble of a camel's digestive system. But mostly quiet. Liu Chen begins to speak softly, almost to himself. My grandfather was a traveling merchant, he says. Not on the Silk Road, just local routes, village to village. But he told me stories about the great caravans, about the legendary traders who made fortunes, about the dangers and wonders of the road. Those stories captivated me as a child. I dreamed of adventure, of seeing distant lands, of becoming wealthy and famous. And now you are living those dreams, you say? Yes, he agrees. But the reality is different from the stories. Harder, more uncomfortable, less romantic, yet also more real, more meaningful somehow. In stories, the hero travels and has adventures and returns changed. But the stories do not mention the blisters on your feet or the burning in your throat or the way your back aches after walking all day. You laugh quietly. No, the stories leave out those details. They are boring, but they are real. Boring history, Liu Chen says with a smile. That would be a good name for a true account of the Silk Road. Not the heroic tales, but the real experience. The endless walking, the careful rationing of water, the negotiation for camping spots, the small kindnesses between travelers, the fear that hides behind stoic faces. No one would want to hear such a story, you say. People want heroes and villains, drama and excitement. Perhaps, Liu Chen concedes, but I think there is value in the boring parts too. They are the foundation that makes the dramatic moments possible. You cannot appreciate arriving at an oasis unless you understand what it means to walk all day through the desert. You cannot understand the relief of a safe camp unless you know the fear of potential danger. You think about this as you watch the darkness. He is right in a way. The dramatic moments are important, but they are brief. Most of life is the quiet stretches between dramas. The walking, the working, the eating, the sleeping. The ordinary things that fill the hours and days and years. A sound breaks your contemplation. Not a threatening sound, but something unusual. Music, distant and faint, coming from somewhere in the camp. Someone is playing a flute, a simple melody that drifts through the night air like smoke. Beautiful, Liu Chen whispers. The melody continues, rising and falling, exploring a theme, varying it, returning to it. It is not complex music, but it is deeply felt, played by someone who knows their instrument well. Other travelers must be awake, listening. Perhaps some cannot sleep. Perhaps others simply want to extend the day a little longer, reluctant to surrender consciousness. The music stops, leaving a silence that feels deeper than before. Then it starts again, a different melody this time, slower, more melancholy. A song of longing, perhaps, or remembrance, or simply the musician's response to the beauty of the night. You realize you are swaying slightly, moving to the rhythm. Liu Chen notices and smiles. Music is a universal language, he says. Even if we do not know the specific song, we understand what it expresses. The music continues for a while, then fades away. Silence returns, gentle and complete. The moon has reached the position Rahman indicated. Your watch is ending. We should wake the next guards, you say. Liu Chen nods, and together you make your way back into the camp, moving quietly to avoid disturbing sleepers. You find the two men assigned to the second watch and wake them gently. They rise without complaint, gather their weapons, and take up positions by the signal fire. Your duty complete, you return to your small tent. Zaytuna is sleeping peacefully, her breathing slow and deep. You arrange your blanket and lie down, your body grateful for rest. The ground is hard, but you are too tired to care. The stars are visible through the tent opening, and you watch them for a moment, thinking about Liu Chen's words, about being part of something larger, about the connection between earth and sky, between one traveler and another, between past and future. Sleep comes quickly, pulling you down into darkness deeper than the desert night. You dream of walking, endless walking, but in the dream, the desert is not harsh, but gentle, and the path is clear, and ahead of you, visible on the horizon, is something bright and welcoming, a destination that promises rest and reward in completion. The dream is pleasant, and you sink into it gratefully. You wake to the sound of movement in the camp, the early stirrings of men preparing for another day. The sky is still dark, but there is a quality to the darkness that suggests dawn is not far off. The stars are fading, giving way to the approaching sun. You lie still for a moment, reluctant to leave the warmth of your blanket. Your body aches in a dozen places, muscles stiff from yesterday's exertion. But you know you must rise, must prepare, must ready yourself for another day of walking. Slowly you sit up. Around the camp, others are doing the same. Fires are being rekindled, water is being heated for tea or gruel. Men are visiting the area designated for personal needs. The camp is transforming from a place of rest back into a place of purpose and movement. You fold your blanket and roll your sleeping mat, packing them carefully. You check your possessions, making sure nothing was disturbed in the night, that the silk is still secure. Everything is as it should be. You allow yourself a small moment of relief. The old storyteller is already awake, sitting cross-legged near his small fire, his eyes closed, his lips moving silently. Perhaps he is praying, or reciting poetry, or simply talking to himself in the way old people sometimes do. You do not disturb him, but feel comforted by his presence, this man who has traveled the road 7 times and survived, who carries nothing but words, yet seems wealthier in some indefinable way than merchants with their camels loaded with goods. You prepare a simple breakfast, similar to last night's dinner. Bread, dates, water. You eat mechanically, fueling your body for the day ahead. The food is not particularly satisfying, but satisfaction is not the point. The point is energy, endurance, survival. Rahman is moving through the camp again, his energy seemingly inexhaustible. He checks that fires are being extinguished properly, that no trash is being left behind, that camels are being loaded correctly. The Silk Road has unwritten rules about camps. Leave them clean, leave the well accessible, leave signs for those who come after. These rules are followed not from altruism but from mutual self-interest. You may need this camp again on a return journey, or other travelers from your city or trading house may stop here, and how you leave a place affects how others will be treated. The sky lightens from black to deep blue to pale blue streaked with pink. The sun has not yet appeared, but its approach is announced by the changing light, by the way the landscape begins to emerge from shadow, revealing itself in shades of gray and brown and ochre. Liu Chen appears, looking tired but cheerful. "Good morning, Karim," he says. "I hope you slept well." "Well enough," you reply. "And you?" "I slept, though I woke several times. My body is not yet accustomed to sleeping on the ground." He sits near your fire, accepting tea when you offer it. "Thank you for sharing the watch with me last night. It was good to have company." "It was my pleasure," you say. "Your thoughts on poetry and stars made the time pass pleasantly." He smiles, pleased by the compliment. "Perhaps tonight we will have a different conversation. The road is long and we have many nights ahead to explore different topics." "I look forward to it," you say, and realize you mean it. Liu Chen is good company, thoughtful and kind, the sort of companion who makes a difficult journey more bearable. Rahman's voice calls across the camp. "Prepare to move. We leave when the sun touches the horizon." The camp erupts into organized activity. Tents are struck and packed. Fires are doused with sand. Camels are brought forward and loaded. Men check their water supplies, their provisions, their equipment. Everything is done with practiced efficiency, the result of repetition and experience. You load Zaytuna, going through the familiar routine. Blanket, saddle, pack, securing each with leather straps, checking knots, making sure weight is balanced. Zaytuna bears this patiently, occasionally turning her head to observe your work with her dark, calm eyes. The sun appears, a sliver of fire on the eastern horizon, growing rapidly into a full disk of brilliant light. The desert is transformed, shadows stretching long and dramatic across the ground, the colors shifting from muted to vivid. It is beautiful, this daily miracle of sunrise, and even though you have seen it countless times, even though you will see it countless more times before reaching your destination, it still moves something in you, still feels like a promise or a blessing. The caravan forms its line. Rahman takes his position at the front. One by one, the camels fall into place, each following the one ahead, creating that long chain of animals and goods and hopes stretching across the landscape. You find your spot in the line, Lu Chen somewhere behind you with his master's porcelain-laden camels, the old storyteller somewhere ahead with his invisible cargo of words. Rahman raises his staff and points forward. The caravan begins to move. Step by step, the camp is left behind, the well returning to its patient, waiting for the next travelers who will come in days or weeks, who will drink gratefully from its depths, who will rest in its shade before continuing their own journeys toward their own destinations. The morning is cool, relatively speaking. The day's heat not yet established. This is the best time for traveling, these few hours after sunrise when the air is fresh and the body is rested and the miles pass easily. You know that by midday, the coolness will be a fading memory, replaced by the familiar assault of sun and heat and endless distance. But for now, the walking is almost pleasant. The landscape today is different from yesterday. The flat gravel plain has given way to more varied terrain. There are hills and valleys carved by ancient rivers that no longer flow, shaped by winds that have blown for millennia. The path winds between these formations, sometimes climbing, sometimes descending, always seeking the easiest route. The oasis grows larger as you approach, transforming from a distant line of green into distinct shapes. Palm trees, their fronds moving gently in the breeze. Bushes clustered around what must be water, perhaps even grass. That precious carpet of living green that seems like a miracle after the browns and grays of the desert. The sight energizes the caravan. The camels sense water and quicken their pace slightly. The men walk with renewed purpose, the fatigue of the morning temporarily forgotten in anticipation of rest and refreshment. As you draw closer, you see that this is not merely a well, but a true oasis, a place where water rises naturally to the surface, creating a small ecosystem in the midst of barrenness. There are several pools, their surfaces reflecting the sky like scattered mirrors. Around these pools, vegetation grows thick and lush, creating a green island perhaps 200 paces across. Palm trees provide shade, their trunks straight and their crowns spreading wide. Date palms, you realize, which means fruit, which means sweetness, which means a luxury you have not tasted since leaving Samarkand. The oasis is not deserted. As your caravan approaches, you see that another group is already camped here. Their camels are hobbled near the water, perhaps 20 animals. Their tents are pitched in the shade of the palms. Smoke rises from their cooking fires. Men move among the trees, going about their daily tasks. Rahman raises his hand, and the caravan stops while he goes forward alone to greet the other travelers. This is proper etiquette on the Silk Road. An oasis belongs to no one and to everyone. But courtesy requires announcement of arrival, permission to share the space, assurance of peaceful intentions. You watch as Rahman approaches the other camp, as he is met by their leader, as the two men exchange greetings and engage in conversation. After several minutes, Rahman returns and signals that all is well. They are merchants from Bukhara, he announces, traveling east with copper and glassware. They welcome us to share the oasis. There is room for all, and the water is abundant. Make camp on the northern side away from their tents. Be courteous and respectful. We will rest here through the heat of the day and resume our journey in the late afternoon. This news is received with visible relief. A long rest, the luxury of abundant water, shade to shelter in. These are gifts beyond price in the desert. The caravan moves forward again, circling around the oasis to the northern side as directed. The transition from desert to oasis is abrupt and startling. One moment, you are walking on bare ground, and the next, you are stepping onto soil that is dark and moist, soil that supports life. Grass grows here, not thick but present, offering something green for the camels to eat. Bushes cluster together, their leaves dusty but alive. And the palm trees rise overhead, their fronds creating patches of blessed shade. You find a suitable spot for your camp, a small clearing between two palms where the ground is relatively level. Zaytuna kneels without prompting, as eager for rest as you are. You unload her carefully, then lead her to the water. She drinks deeply, long draughts that go on, replenishing what she lost during the morning's walk. When she is satisfied, she moves to a patch of grass and begins to graze, her jaw working steadily. Her expression as close to contentment as a camel can manage. You return to your camping spot and allow yourself the luxury of simply sitting for a moment. The shade is wonderful, cutting the sun's intensity, making the air feel degrees cooler. Around you, other travelers are settling in, unpacking, tending to their animals, beginning to relax into this unexpected haven. Liu Chen appears, his arms full of empty water skins. "Master Huang sent me to refill all our containers," he says. "Will you come with me to the pools? I confess I am nervous about approaching the other caravan, even though Rahman says they are friendly." "Of course," you say, gathering your own water skin. Together you walk toward the largest of the pools, where the water is clearest and deepest. The pool is perhaps 15 paces across, fed by a spring that bubbles up from somewhere beneath the ground. The water is so clear you can see the sandy bottom, see the small ripples where the spring enters the pool, see tiny fish darting in the shallows. Fish here in the middle of the desert. The sight is almost as miraculous as the water itself. Several men from the other caravan are at the pool, filling containers, washing clothes, simply sitting with their feet in the water. They look up as you approach but seem unconcerned. One man, older with a gray beard and kind eyes, nods a greeting. "Peace be upon you," he says in Persian. "And upon you, peace," you reply, grateful that you share a common language. "You travel west?" he asks. "Yes, toward Persia and beyond. You travel east?" "To Kashgar, then perhaps on to Chang'an if conditions allow. The road has been good to you so far." "Good enough. No troubles. Rahman is an experienced guide." The man nods approvingly. "Rahman is known to us. He is wise and careful. You are fortunate to travel under his leadership." He pauses, then adds, "There is news you should know. Word has come from the west of unrest in some territories. Local disputes. Nothing that should affect trade directly, but Rahman should know. He can decide the best route." You thank him for the information, file it away to report to Rahman later. Liu Chen is filling his water skins, his nervousness apparently eased by the friendly exchange. The older man watches him with amusement. "Your first journey?" he asks Liu Chen. "Yes, uncle," Liu Chen replies respectfully. "Ah, I remember my first time on the road. Every shadow seemed to hide danger. Every stranger seemed threatening. But you will learn. Most people on the Silk Road are like us, simply trying to make a living, hoping to complete their journey safely. We are all brothers in survival out here." Liu Chen smiles, clearly pleased by these reassuring words. You finish filling your water skin, then yield your spot to another traveler who is waiting. Before leaving the pool, you kneel and drink directly from it, cupping the cold water in your hands, feeling it flow down your throat, feeling it spread through your body like a blessing. You and Liu Chen return to your camps, walking through dappled shade, listening to the breeze moving through the palm fronds, enjoying sounds you have not heard in days, the rustle of leaves, the chirping of birds that live in the oasis, the splash of water when someone dives into one of the pools. At your camp, you set up your tent more elaborately than usual, taking advantage of the long rest period to create a comfortable space. You hang your spare clothing to air out, shake sand from your blankets, arrange your belongings neatly. Then you retrieve a few dates from your food supply and allow yourself to eat them slowly, savoring their sweetness, their soft texture, their reminder of civilization and agriculture and human cultivation. The camp settles into an afternoon lull. The heat is still intense despite the shade, and most travelers choose to rest during these hours, conserving energy for the cooler evening. You lie in your tent, too warm to sleep deeply but dozing in and out of consciousness, your mind drifting through half-formed thoughts and dreamlike images. You wake to the sound of voices outside your tent, not threatening, but lively, engaged in animated conversation. Curious, you emerge to find that the two caravans have begun to mingle. Men from the Bukhara group have come to visit, bringing gifts of food and news. Rahman and the other caravan leader are sitting together in the shade, sharing tea, talking in low voices about routes and conditions and politics. Other traders have formed small groups, engaged in the casual commerce that happens when merchants meet. The Persian carpet merchant is showing his wares to a man from Bukhara who deals in similar goods, each examining the other's inventory with professional interest, discussing techniques and suppliers, perhaps negotiating trades. The Chinese porcelain merchant is carefully unwrapping a single piece to show to potential buyers, his hands gentle, his expression proud. You see the old storyteller surrounded by a group of younger men, all listening intently as he speaks. His hands move expressively, shaping the air, his voice rising and falling with the rhythm of his tale. You cannot hear the words from this distance, but you can see the effect. The listeners are rapt, transported by whatever story he is telling, their faces showing wonder and emotion. Liu Chen waves to you from across the camp, gesturing for you to join him. You make your way over and find him sitting with several other young men, all apparently servants or apprentices like himself, all on their first or second journeys. They have formed a kind of informal club, sharing experiences and anxieties, finding comfort in their common situation. "Karim, join us," Liu Chen says. "We are sharing stories of why we chose to travel the Silk Road." You settle yourself in the circle. One of the young men, a tall fellow with a ready smile, is speaking. "My father said I needed to learn the business from the ground up, that I could not simply inherit his trading house without understanding the work. So here I am, carrying copper bars across the desert, sleeping on the ground, eating dust. But he was right, I think. I am learning things I could never learn in an office or shop." Another young man, quieter and more serious, adds, "I travel because I had no choice. My family lost everything in a fire, our shop, our home, everything. My uncle offered me this position with his caravan. It was that or starve. But I am grateful now. At least on the road, every man is judged by his current actions, not his past circumstances." The stories continue around the circle, each young man revealing something of himself, his motivations, his hopes. When it comes to your turn, you speak carefully, revealing some truth, but not all. "I traveled to build a future," you say, "to create something for myself that I could not create at home. The Silk Road offers opportunity to those willing to take risks. I am willing." They nod, understanding this motivation, sharing it to various degrees. Liu Chen speaks last. "I travel because the stories made it seem romantic and adventurous. Now I know it is mostly discomfort and fear and boredom. But also, I have seen things I never would have seen at home. The desert at night, an oasis rising from nowhere. The kindness of strangers who have no reason to be kind, except that we share the road. These things are worth the discomfort." The conversation drifts to other topics. The quality of different camels, the best foods to carry on long journeys, techniques for keeping clothes clean, remedies for blisters and sunburn. You listen and contribute occasionally, enjoying this easy camaraderie, this brotherhood of inexperience facing the same challenges. The afternoon wears on. The sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, the light shifting from harsh white to softer gold. The temperature drops slightly, enough to make movement more appealing. Around both camps, men begin to stir, emerging from tents, stretching, preparing for the evening. Rahman announces that the caravan will remain at the oasis through the night, departing at dawn. This news is greeted with pleasure. A full night's rest in this comfortable place is a rare luxury. Some men immediately begin to plan how they will use the extra time, washing clothes, repairing equipment, cooking more elaborate meals than usual, simply relaxing. You decide to wash yourself properly, something you have not been able to do since leaving Samarkand. You gather a change of clothes and a small piece of soap, precious and carefully hoarded, and make your way to one of the smaller pools away from the main water source, a pool designated for bathing. Several other men have had the same idea. There is a relaxed, almost festive atmosphere as travelers strip down and wade into the water, exclaiming at its coolness, splashing like children, scrubbing away days of accumulated dust and sweat. You join them, feeling the water embrace your body, feeling the grime dissolve, feeling yourself become clean and renewed. The water is perhaps waist-deep in the center of the pool, cool but not cold, clean and clear. You duck your head under, feeling the water flow through your hair, across your scalp, washing away sand that has worked its way into every crevice. You surface, gasping at the pleasure of it, and see others doing the same, their faces showing the same expression of relief and joy. You soap yourself thoroughly, then rinse, then simply float for a while, looking up at the sky through the palm fronds, feeling your muscles relax, feeling tension you did not know you were carrying drain away into the water. This is healing, this water, this moment, not just physically but spiritually, some deeper part of yourself being cleansed and restored. Eventually, reluctantly, you leave the pool and dry yourself with a cloth that is itself not perfectly clean, but cleaner than you are. You dress in your spare clothes, which feel strange and stiff after days of wearing the same garments. You gather your dirty clothes to wash them, joining other men at the edge of another pool, all engaged in the same task, scrubbing fabric against rocks, rinsing, wringing, hanging the wet garments on bushes to dry in the evening air. By the time you return to your camp, clean and dressed and feeling more human than you have in days, the sun is low on the horizon and the oasis is transforming into an evening scene of remarkable beauty. The light comes horizontally through the palms, creating dramatic rays and shadows. The pools reflect orange and pink and gold. Birds are settling into the trees for the night, calling to each other, establishing their positions. The air is cooling rapidly, comfortable now, pleasant. Cooking fires are being lit in both camps, more fires than usual, larger fires as men take advantage of the available fuel and the security of numbers to cook proper meals. You can smell bread baking, meat roasting, spices releasing their fragrances into the air. Your stomach responds with urgent hunger, reminding you that you have eaten very little today. You build your own fire and begin to prepare the most elaborate meal you can manage with your limited supplies. You soak some grain in water to soften it, preparing a kind of porridge. You toast the last of your bread over the fire. You chop dates and almonds together, mixing them with a little precious honey you have been saving, creating a simple but satisfying dessert. As you cook, the Persian carpet merchant approaches. "Young man," he says, "I am hosting a small gathering at my fire tonight. Several of us will share food and stories. You would be welcome to join us." You are surprised and honored by the invitation. "Thank you, uncle. I would be pleased to attend." "Come when you have finished your meal," he says. "Bring whatever you wish to share, food, drink, stories, songs. All contributions are welcome." He moves on, extending similar invitations to others. You realize this is a kind of formal gathering, a tradition on the Silk Road where travelers from different caravans come together to share not just goods but culture, knowledge, companionship. You feel excited at the prospect, grateful to be included. You eat your simple meal, finding it more delicious than expected, perhaps because you are clean and rested, perhaps because you are anticipating the gathering, perhaps simply because food tastes better when eaten in comfort rather than exhaustion. As you eat, you watch the sun complete its descent, sinking below the horizon, leaving behind a sky of layered colors that slowly fade to deep blue and then to black. The stars begin to appear, first the brightest ones, then more and more, until the sky is filled with them. The moon has not yet risen, so the stars are especially vivid, casting their ancient light across the desert, across the oasis, across the gathered travelers who have come from distant lands to meet in this place for this brief time. You make your way to the Persian carpet merchant's fire, which has been built in a central location where both caravans can easily access it. Already, perhaps 15 or 20 men have gathered, sitting in a rough circle around the fire. The merchant greets you warmly and gestures to a space in the circle. You settle yourself and look around at the assembled group. There is Rahman, of course, and the leader of the Bukhara caravan. There is the old storyteller, his eyes reflecting the firelight. There is Liu Chen and his master, the porcelain merchant. There are several men you do not recognize, travelers from the other caravan, their faces weathered and wise, their expressions open and friendly. And there are others from your own caravan, men you have walked beside for days, but not yet spoken to at length. The Persian merchant stands and speaks formally. Friends and brothers of the road, I welcome you to this gathering. We come from different places and travel to different destinations. But tonight, we are together in this blessed oasis, safe and comfortable, fed and rested. Let us share what we have, food, drink, knowledge, stories, and let us remember this night as an example of the brotherhood that makes the Silk Road possible. There is a murmur of approval, and then the gathering begins in earnest. Food is brought out and placed in the center. Bread and cheese, dried fruits and nuts, cooked grains and roasted meat, even some fresh dates picked from the oasis palms. Everyone contributes something, and everyone is invited to eat from the common store. Wine appears, produced from somewhere, carefully hoarded and now generously shared. The bottle passes around the circle, each man taking a small drink, savoring the taste, the warmth, the slight loosening of tongues and inhibitions. You drink when the bottle comes to you, feeling the wine spread through your chest, feeling yourself relax even further into the evening. Stories begin. The old storyteller naturally goes first. He tells a tale of a merchant who tried to cheat a desert spirit and ended up cursed to wander forever, his camel transforming into a creature of sand that dissolves and reforms with each dawn. The story is fantastical and humorous, and everyone laughs at the appropriate moments, enjoying the storyteller's skill, his timing, his expressive gestures. When he finishes, others contribute their own stories. A trader from Bukhara tells of a sandstorm so fierce it buried his entire caravan, and how they survived by creating an air pocket under the camels and waiting 3 days for the storm to pass. A young man tells of meeting a hermit, living alone in a cave, surviving on scorpions and philosophy, claiming to have found enlightenment in the desert's emptiness. Rahman tells a story of his early days on the road, when he was young and foolish and tried to take a shortcut across an unmapped section of desert. He got lost, ran out of water, and was saved only by stumbling upon a Bedouin camp whose inhabitants shared their water despite having little to spare. I learned 2 lessons that day, he says. First, never trust your own judgment over proven routes. Second, kindness is humanity's greatest virtue, especially in harsh places where cruelty would be easier. Laughter rings out regularly. Arguments break out over minor points. The best route through certain mountain passes. The fair price for silk in Damascus. Whether Mongol horses are superior to Arabian horses. But the arguments are good-natured, part of the pleasure of the evening.